very practical weeding print collections. And so we're not talking about metadata or all that other fancy stuff. This is the nitty-gritty of being a librarian. And we have three of us presenting today. I'm Dave Tickerson. I'm at Cal State Fresno. I'm one of the reference librarians. And this is Dawn Mick.
Yep, hi, I'm Dawn Mick. I'm at Iowa State University. I'm the Access Services Department head there.
And
Hi, I'm Kimberly Smith, and I'm also at Fresno State. I'm the Collection Development Librarian.
okay, so let's get started. And Dawn is first.
Are we asking a question or should I just kick it off?
What?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi there. So as I said, I am from Iowa State University. Blah, blah, blah. Just a second. Yep, come on here. Where's it going? Just a second. Okay, apparently I'm just gonna do it like this. Zoom the slideshow. Okay, there we go, you gotta hit the right button. It's a deal. Okay, so anyway, like I said, I'm from Iowa State, obviously, Access Services Librarian. We are located in the, I don't know if you can see my mouse here, right here. There's no mouse. That red thing in the middle. Okay then, well, gee willikers. Yeah, okay, presenter, no, okay. Anyway, we're like right over there.
In the middle.
The red eye, if anybody can see that. We're located in the kind of the north central part of the state. We have enrollment of around 35,000 students and about 17,000 faculty and staff. And if anyone can't hear me, you do like a ear nod thing or a nose, like a careful net thing. Anyone can't hear me? Yeah, okay, thank you. I will step a little bit closer to the microphone. There we go. I have a loud voice. I'm always afraid to get too close to the mic, otherwise I'm gonna blast people's ears, and who wants that? So anyway, yeah, so 17,000 faculty and staff, around 36,000 students. We're, or 35,000, I'm inflating things. We're a land-grant institution. Our library, we have a main library, 2 branch libraries, and a storage library, and we have around 2.8 million volumes. Iowa State is a member of the Iowa Regents. That includes the University of Iowa and the University of Northern Iowa. And we are governed by the Board of Regents, but we do not have a centralized system of administration for all 3 public universities. And as libraries, we really don't do a lot of shared collection development. Well, this image right here is our current Alma fulfillment network. So that's not all of the colleges in the state, but back in 2015, we weren't on Alma yet, and we didn't have any sort of in-state courier system. And we aren't geographically close to the University of Iowa or UNI or any members of the Greater Western Library GWILA consortium. So all those things factored into our withdrawal decisions. Again, if you click the right button, it helps you. I'm trying. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. Good idea. Okay, so in late 2014, Karen Lawson, who was our Associate Dean for Collections, tasked me with, and I'm still talking to you, okay, tasked me with investigating the ideas of doing a large-scale withdrawal project, both as a way to ease congestion in the stacks and to prepare for future space needs. The nice thing is we weren't under any sort of time pressure, but with increased enrollment over the last couple of years, space was becoming a premium, and also we just did not want this thing to drag on forever and ever and a day. Another concern was staff. Like many libraries, we have a leaner staff due to attrition, and we didn't want to devote a lot of staff time to the kind of data gathering that we thought would be very helpful for this project. We really needed to get a complete picture of our holdings as compared to other libraries' holdings. And due to our circumstances with geographic isolation-ish, but also lack of a courier, we really wanted to know what was available in the state as well as with members with members of our consortium. After researching options, we decided to use Sustainable Collections Greenglass product, mostly because they could do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the data gathering, and we didn't have to use a lot of staff time to do that. We chose, oops, wrong way. helps with the down arrow. We chose Greenglass because it provided both title and item level data. It provided usage information, WorldCat holdings data, HathiTrust, whether it was copyright or in public domain, and we're members of HathiTrust, so that was pretty useful. What we liked about it most, though, is the ability to choose up to 5 comparator groups to measure our holdings against, and the ability to create custom protection rules to flag the items that we wanted to make sure to keep. We decided we would want to protect anything that had ISU Press in it, anything published by the ISU Press, and anything with the word Iowa in the title, subject, or author fields. Excuse me. To determine how many records we would submit to Greenglass for our price quote, we asked our IT department to query Aleph to find books from our general collections in parks, storage, and the branch libraries. We excluded anything that was part of an analyzed set, anything created before 2005, created between the years of 2005 and 2015. Then that had a circulation greater than 1. We didn't want to weed the PZs because we had just done that within the last 2 years. We of course, didn't want to weed our theses and dissertations. They're all digitized now, but at the time they were not. And publications that were held in both our general collection and our special collections, because those were generally faculty publications. These criteria garnered a total of 519,500 bib records or 712,294 item records. So a group of 5 of us, it was myself, Karen Lawson, Ed Gedekin, who is our collections coordinator, Lori Pellick, who is one of our research librarians, and Kathy Parsons, who's the head of space and stacks management. We got together to try to determine how we might approach this project. And Greenglass had told us that the data would only be good for about 18 months. After the time, the data would have aged out, so it was really not useful in terms of comparisons. And knowing that our 17 research librarians would already have their hands full with their usual work and with this 18-month time limit, wanting to have all the final decisions made before then, we decided that it would be a good idea if we had some baseline criteria that would minimize the amount of records that they had to touch. It took the 5 of us about 2 hours, which I think has got to be some sort of record set for decisions, to come up with the thresholds for what we would want to save and what we'd want to withdraw. So obviously ISU only holdings, that's a no-brainer. I mean, we're going to keep those. But we decided that if the items also had fewer than 6 GWILA holdings, fewer than 11 Iowa holdings, fewer than 36 OCLC holdings, was not held by either of our regents, and was circulated more than 1 time, then we would keep it. However, once Greenglass did the initial process of data, we realized that the circulations didn't really matter because we were going to keep this stuff regardless, so we ignored that part. For our auto-weed, we just flipped all that on its head, and anything that was held by more than 6, more than 11, more than 36, held by Iowa or UNI, and had less than 2 circs was going to be an auto-weed for sure. So when it all came down to it, we ended up having 85,102 items that met our auto-weed criteria and 17,718 auto-weeds. For those of you who might be curious if we just went ahead and dumped 17,000 items, we did actually keep about 3,800 or 22% because we realized that they were books that no self-respecting research library would get rid of. So that's still, oops, sorry, I unveiled the big reveal. So anyway, that left, we ended up with 609,474 items for Greenglass. They filtered an additional 109,849 out, and so that left just around 500,000 for the librarians to work with. Okay, so this is Greenglass. Behold it in all its glory. Behold it in all its glory. Sorry, I keep forgetting if I turn away, that's what happens. So you can see the total number of records, the number of filtered records. It also down here will show you metrics such as these metrics compare your libraries to other Greenglass libraries, so it's not in the United States, just other people that have gone through Greenglass. So it shows you things such as zero usage, publications more than 10 years old, same edition versus any edition, possible duplicates, and then there's about 5 or 6 other ones. The Visualize tab allows you to see your collection data graphically when it moves. So it allows you to see, it gives you several different distribution and overlay options. So in this particular example, this is using oh, it didn't change.
Up there.
Oh, that's exciting. And you're like, you people are talking about what? Okay. There we go. Okay, so the black is this is a subject distribution. And so the black are what, from A to Z, what subject areas, and then the green is the number of circulations. The lighter the color, the more circulations it has. The remediation list, the remediations tab, it shows you the, things that are both filtered out of Greenglass and things that are set aside but in Greenglass and you can query. Such examples are things that don't have a set OCLC holding for your library, even though your library obviously has it, and or let's see, what's another one? Multiple editions, if you have multiple editions of particular items and which ones. Now this is the analysis tab, which is where the good stuff is, from my perspective. This is where we directed the research librarians to start their collection data gathering. You have a query builder here where you can query by subject subject and then subclasses within that subject. You can look at all your locations or you can itemize by location. You can look by recorded usage or the last date the item was checked out, publication and acquisition dates, HathiTrust, choice reviews if you subscribe to choice. And the best part is the ability to query on US holdings, your state holdings, your comparator group holdings, and they can actually be combined to do kind of a crosstab comparison if that's useful to you. You can save the analysis in Greenglass and export it to Excel, which is what we had our librarians do. And then as a minimum entry point, we asked that their base criteria would be that the item had fewer than 2 circulations, was published before 2005, added to the collection before 2005, and had a US holdings more than 100. So most of them just went with that, but some of them did like 75 holdings, or they actually drilled down a little bit more deeply and found other things that weren't caught in this, but that were actually on the shelves and needed to be withdrawn. So in the end, we did it. We got it done within 3 years. We withdrew 138,000 items, roughly 27% of the records that we had in there, which was pretty impressive. The initial guess was that we'd be lucky if we withdrew 100,000 items, but we surpassed that. And now we have more space for students and new books, so yay. But yeah, and so at this point, we're really pretty much done. We're just doing some cleanup. We're searching for missing items that we couldn't find when we pulled stuff. We're starting to work on the remediation lists and get our holdings set in OCLC. But using Greenglass really helped us streamline the decision-making. The exports were great to work with, the Excel files, and it helped our research librarians focus their decision-making. I like that the interface was easy to use, the sustainable collection staff was easy to work with, and I don't think we're doing any other major withdrawal projects anytime soon. I think we're done with that for a little while, but if we do in the future, I would definitely consider using Greenglass again. So anyway, thank you very much, and now it's Cal State's turn.
Okay, so now at Iowa State, they used Greenglass. Sorry about that. Oh, it went off, okay. From the beginning, that's us, good job. Okay, at Fresno State, we did it without using Greenglass. And the reason for not using Greenglass is what we perceived as the cost of using Greenglass. So what can you do yourself? And that's what I'm going to talk about here. That's me. We're a smaller university and a smaller library than Iowa State. I used to work at Iowa State in the 80s. They have a great library, but they're bigger than us in terms of people and students. An interesting thing that I found out in doing this, I asked how many majors we have. Nobody knows. I got different answers from every single person that I asked, and we need to figure out on our campus how many majors we have. 76 is a number that has stood in my head. If you look in the catalog, there's 120 some, many of which were one-person special deals. So nobody could tell me. But so we're a comprehensive university. We have ag programs that are fairly specialized in agriculture, but otherwise we're pretty generic. Most of our students are undergraduates, as you see from the data. And the key thing for us is that we are one of 23 campuses in the Cal State system, which 2 years ago all migrated to Alma and Primo. So we are using a shared system throughout our state with a delivery system. We have had a courier system for decades, even before we had the same system to deliver materials. So the ability for us to share resources within the CSU is very good. So we weren't worried about, and while we are a comprehensive university, we're not a research university like Iowa State and the University of Iowa are. So we don't always have to keep everything. So get your own stuff. Here's some of the data that is available to us in our system. And circulation data is the key thing that I use in weeding. If it's material that circulates, and we circulate pretty much anything. Reference books, you can check them out. Nobody uses them in the building anymore, so let the one person who wants to use it take it. Bound periodicals, same thing. Microfilm, if you want to check out a microfilm, please do so and don't bring it back. But so we do have good circulation, and we've made an effort since we opened our new building in 2009, February 2009. We added 350,000 square feet. We do not have a space problem for the majority of the collections. A few are a little tight, but so it's not that we need to get rid of things. We don't have stuff in storage. We have room on the shelves, but you still want to keep your collection clean and up to date. So these are some of the figures that you can collect. And these are some of the collections that you can analyze, and the main stacks being 900,000 of our 1.2 million volumes are in the main stacks, or actually over 900,000 of them. But areas that I am interested in are the bound journals, the reference collection, and the micro. And then there are specialized areas. We have a music collection that's separate. We have what we call the Teacher Resource Center, which is curriculum materials, children's books, which are that is our highest use collection. So on a university, the most checked out books are the children's books. So with Alma, one thing that I am very impressed with is the analytics aspect. And do I know how to do it? No. Other people at my library know how to do it, which makes my life great. Because I can ask Maria or Christine, hey, let's look at this script right here, which some of you, well, you probably can't read, and even if you could, I can read it and I don't know what it says, but this is the script for getting the high use items in the stacks. And Christine wrote it, and it can generate the data whenever we ask for it. So we used to be on Sierra, and then pre that, we used to be on III. I liked III a lot, but this aspect of Alma blows everything away. So with this, what can we do? This is a spreadsheet just of bound journal items. It doesn't have the usage data on it, but it's bound journal items, because the usage data of almost every single volume is the same, and it is 0. I do have a spreadsheet of the used bound journals. The single most used bound journal is Nature, which makes sense, over 800 times, but most are 0. So I've just here got the journals, and what we are doing is I'm having students who work in reference when it's not busy, because we have students there till midnight, we have students there on Saturdays. So there's a lot of times that it's not very busy answering questions. This has 2 advantages. That I want them to look up and see where these titles are online. And so you see here, the first one you can't reach, Journal of Personality. It's in EBSCO, it's in Wiley, and we have the back file that we purchased. So we have it from 1932 till the present online in what I consider a reliable, always be there online source, unlike EBSCO, which comes and goes. And so this is a good candidate for weeding in my mind, because it's available. If we get rid of it, it's still available in a much preferable form. It's online through Wiley, so we can get rid of that one. But the nice thing of this is that the students and myself, when I'm at the desk, I play around with it because I like this kind of stuff. But the students, it gives them practice looking things up, which is what their job is, and gives me data on what's available. So that's what I'm doing with bound journals. This doesn't involve actually any data except the data of where these are available online. Here's a better thing to weed is microfilm. And I picked this one because of the yellow. That's actually microfiche that's miscoded in the system as microfilm. And it's the old index to our local paper, which I probably will keep just because of what it is, even though nobody's probably ever going to use it. But the same thing here with the sanitarian is in JSTOR, so that can all go. The notes and queries is in Gale, which I wouldn't trust that it would always be there, but it's in the Oxford University Press database that we have, but only from volume 43 on. So some volumes could go, but not all of them. And this gives me an informed way of looking at the collection, determining what we can get rid of. This is the reference collection sheet, which I got from Maria. The other 2 were from Christine. And Maria, I asked for specifics. And because all of the liaisons are involved with reference, I want all of them to have input. Not that all of them have given input, but they all have the opportunity for input. And so this is on a shared Google document in our drive. And this item I picked because I marked it. It's got every volume of every title, so some of the things get very long, especially in the law collection, where there's, literally 1,000 volumes of a set. But here's a good example. The constitutions of the world, we're all familiar with those binders that we've had on the shelf for years, which nobody looks at, because if they're looking up a constitution, they go online to the country, they get the whole current thing. So this one is marked discard, and the reason is it's online. And as everybody looks at this, they can mark their titles, and we can, when technical services is prepared to handle the volume, send them stuff. This is the sheet that I had the logic for a little bit earlier. These are the most used items in our book stacks, in our circulating collection. Number 1 which you can't read from back there, is a book called Entering the Picture, Judy Chicago, the Fresno Feminist Art Program, and the Collective Visions of Something, which goes off the sheet here. That's a book that was on reserve for class. It's not right now, but it was. But it had 213 checkouts. And I like it because the feminist art movement, Judy Chicago, was briefly a professor on our campus, and it started on our campus, and the fact that people are researching that is a nice link, local link for us. Book number 2, Gift of the Fire, Social, Legal, and Ethical Issues for Computers and the Internet, may have been on reserve, may not. We've had that one a lot longer. It was mostly checked out in the Sierra age. But I have the data here for each book, how much it's been used, and the Sierra versus Alma tells me when it was used. And so we can make decisions. Obviously, I'm probably not going to weed any of the books on this list because this is the most used list. Kimberly got a list of the 0 titles. And how many were on that?
I don't remember.
It was hundreds of thousands. That I remember. But whereas this list has a few hundred. But that data really helps us decide if we're going to keep something or get rid. Oh, the most interesting one here is Music in Egypt. Experiencing Music, Expressing Culture. That's book number 3. That is on reserve right now. Yeah, I can't believe a few people on our campus might have looked at it, but not 198 would read Music in Egypt. When it goes back to the stacks, this data will remind us, hey, that book was very heavily used because it was on reserve. Okay, now I'm going to let Kimberly talk, and I'll do the slides so she can do it seated.
Thank you.
Grab the microphone. But those are the types of data we have generated ourselves and how we are using it.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay? So how many of you, when you need to do a weeding project, have no problem getting a group of enthusiastic people to take that on? In our library, we have a couple of things going on. One, we have a shortage of employees. We are short employees. We also have a brand new dean, and her #1 mandate, one of the first things she wanted us to do is weed the collection. So we have liaisons who actually have way more than, they have to cover more territory than is really fair. The times that we try to do weeding projects in academic libraries, of course, would be in the summer and also during winter break. So I came up with a pilot project, which I've just begun to implement, and I'm trying to create a small team of weeders who will look at other areas of the collection that liaisons are not responsible for. I have a hope. I have 3 goals and a hope, and I'll tell you the hope in a minute. But what I'm trying to do is create specific weeding kits for people who are willing to take this on. And this would be staff as well as other librarians who aren't liaisons. And I'll give you an example. We have a staff member, she's not a librarian, but she has a PhD in ancient languages. She would love to use her knowledge someplace. So we're seeking out people who have knowledge of a collection. We have another employee who's been around for like 20 years, but I think his library gig is just his benefit job. He's an actor, he's a singer, he has all kinds of knowledge, and he has a passion for music. So he's another one that I've recruited into this small set to begin with. I'm going to go ahead and change it.
Did I go too far? No, that's the next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of information on the web that you can use to create a weeding kit, and I started with just the general overview, and even though there are a bunch of them that look different, they basically say the same thing. In fact, I was shocked to find out how many different ways there are to spell musty. So you'll find a bunch of different ones. Go ahead.
Want me to go ahead?
This is one of my goals with the small group is to help them feel confident. So I am going to let them pick whatever big picture, musty, crew, whatever it is that works for them, just to give them an idea of what they're getting into and have goals. There's additional information. See, it all looks different, but very much the same, but I want them to pick so they'll feel confident in what they're looking at. There's also information, this slide for some reason didn't make it on there, but there's a weeding, I found something called weeding guidelines by subject. And I think the base came from a Texas State Library document that a librarian in Colorado adapted. And I'm just gonna show you, it looks like this, it's multiple pages, but since we're only looking at small pieces of the collection for whoever's volunteering, I don't see this to be too much trouble, and I'm gonna include things. So this is an example. It starts with A's, subjects with A's, and I'm gonna read you just one so you have an idea what's in this. This is for anatomy. It has a year since publication. That's when you should begin looking at the information in this subject area. And it says anatomy does not change as rapidly as other topics and may be, sorry, I don't have my glasses with me, may be indefinitely retained, but it says that the current, can you read this here?
Retain the current edition. Retain the current edition of classics such as Gray's Anatomy in the circulating collection, although historical facsimile editions may be retained in reference indefinitely. Physiology should be weeded after 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. So these are just short little snippets telling you about the topic. So that's another thing I'll include in the areas for people who are on this team. So these are still different ideas for their weeding kit, and I'm gonna let them choose these things, whichever ones look good to them. Keep going. And we have data that we wanna answer, use to answer questions for them. So for example, who's using this collection? This we can do with Alma by seeing which patron group. Is it ILL, is it faculty, grad students, whoever it is, so people have an idea of who's using the collection. So we have several questions. I think there are 7.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We're looking also at the average price for books in these areas. This is another thing we can pull out of Alma. The second goal in this project is to get a little snapshot of what the collection is about. It's been so long since we've weeded it. We really don't have an idea of what each section is like. And so in this project, we're going to create those little narratives. Again, in a group, as a team, a small team, but we're going to create those. So the next time there's weeding, it won't be so bad. We'll have an idea of what's going on. The other thing I was going to tell you is I had a hope. So the hope that I have, if this project is successful, that maybe some of our liaisons will ask for a weeding kit too, and that will give them a jump start because they're the primary people who have the most information but the least amount of time. So that's, if you have any other questions about the project, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, this is what questions do you have or comments, or you please, for the sake of the recording, this is being recorded, use the microphone and standard Charleston procedure, tell us who you are, where you're from before you ask your question.
Good morning. Robert Weaver, Liberty University in Virginia. When you were talking about using the circulation statistics, everybody looks at circulation. Are you looking at total circulation or just circulation in a recent period? As you pointed out, some of those books that were on reserve at one point, that does skew the circulation numbers pretty badly. But if it was on the reserve list 10 years ago, is anybody still reading it? How did you approach that, the potential age of the circulation statistics?
Given that we've only been on Alma for 2 years, any Alma circulation is recent, and any Sierra circulation is older, and the Sierra data is not broken down by year, so I do not have access to the age of the circulation. The thing is, those aren't, that list is not the list I'm looking at for weeding. It's the zeros, which I know when they circulated.
Hi, I'm hoarse, sorry. And my name is Tina Adams. I'm from Western Carolina University. Kimberly, you mentioned a Colorado guide for weeding collections by subject.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about where we could find that?
Sure. I just found it on the web. It's called Weeding Guidelines by Subject, Librarian's Guide to Deselecting Titles from Library Collections. It says it was adapted from a crew document from the Texas State Library. The person who compiled this particular one is Ed Sadowski, and he's at,
Arapahoe Community College Library in Littleton.
this was really easy to find if you just Google weeding guidelines by subject. I'm sure you'll find it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessie Rutland from Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, and I was just wondering if any of you consulted with faculty members before making your final choices.
See, the difficulty of weeding is not the data or the procedure, it's the politics. There are sets in reference I would dump in the dumpster personally, except that the English faculty say we need them, despite the fact that there's no evidence that any of them or their students have touched them since we opened our building, 10 years ago. So that's the most crucial thing, and so the best thing to do is not, in my opinion, don't ask the faculty, rely on your own knowledge. And for us, the fact that we have 22 other campuses that probably have that item, so if we don't have it, it will be delivered in 2 days, makes it easier for us to do that. She's asking if there's a mechanism in place to see if other libraries have it. Yeah, if I have a question, I look in the catalog and I can see all the other schools that own it very easily. So that's a plus of us all being on the same system. However, for what I am weeding now, and I'm pretty much the only person doing standardized weeding at the moment, is the micro. Because nobody's going to miss it, and nobody's going to want it. When we get to the stack collections, that's where would be more checking to see who else has it. If you had used Greenglass, you could set up your profile to compare it to whatever group you wanted, which was very nice. Do you want to say how you did that?
Yeah, well, first let me answer your question about the faculty publications. Faculty asking, we actually didn't really have a history, I found this out from my dean, but we really didn't have a history of going to faculty for these decisions. We do for serials. We definitely get them involved for that, and we've had some major cuts in the last couple of years, so we do that, but not for this one. Individual librarians may have checked with some, but in general, no. We kind of did it on the down low. Yeah, so the great thing about Greenglass, what we opted to do is we wanted to compare individually with the University of Iowa and Northern Iowa. And then we also, with our consortium, we had 35 libraries with GWILA, so we couldn't individually compare ourselves against those. What we did though is we broke them down by their location. So we grouped kind of the eastern ones, the ones that were closest to us, and the ones that were farthest away. And so we could compare how quickly we could get those items if we withdrew them.
I want to make a quick comment. I actually am going to talk to faculty. I have before. When we did the Greenglass data, I created a pie chart for our English department, and I showed them that we had no evidence that 40% of their collection has ever circulated. And I told them that I'm happy to keep whatever they need, but they have to use it, and so they have had fair warning. Now that we have, we don't have that back data anymore because we just have Alma, I'll be able to look just for the last 2 years to see. But that I do think it's important to have communication with faculty. So I will be doing that, and I won't make my new leaders do that. I'll be having those conversations.
Yeah. So Kimberly does it the right way. I do it the wrong way. And fully
I was okay with
admit
that too.
Yes, next question.
Hi, I'm Teresa Negrucci. I'm from Worcester Polytechnic in Massachusetts. We just migrated to Alma this past summer, so I was wondering a little bit of the assessment capabilities you're finding with Alma Analytics. For you, when you weeded your serials, you had the students cross-check against the e-holdings, basically. is there a way to do that in Alma? That you can do an overlap analysis of your printee?
There might be, I don't know how to do it.
Anybody have any
Others here might be able to answer that question.
I can speak to that just a little bit. We've been on Alma since 2016, and I've been dealing more with analytics, but I think you can if you have, depending on how you have your electronic collections in there and your portfolios, I think there is a way possibly to do that. I haven't tested it myself, but I would think the data is there, and that Oracle BI tool in Alma is pretty powerful, so I would think there'd be a way that you could do it by the collection, the portfolio, something like that, that could, if you know the, like I think you could, honestly, with what's available and how much you can drill down into at least physical items. I would think with electronic, you could do something similar.
Also, don't be afraid to ask vendors to help you. We submitted a list of print things from our reference collection, and they went through it and told us what was new and what was available in ebook format, or in e-format, so.
And that was from Credo that did that for us. Yeah.
And part two,
Oh.
a lot of what you've done both for serials and for your monographs is quantitative analysis. What qualitative measures did you use? Several of you said you've gotten some faculty input and you have some subject experts. But beyond those two measures, have you done comparative lists? Are you mapping against other reference review kind of sources like, Choice or resources for college libraries? Before you withdrew, did you do a qualitative analysis as well?
We did not. The choice review was an option with, which I know is kind of quantitative, with Greenglass, but we weren't concerned about that just because of the low usage of the stuff we were looking at.
Oh, we're officially past our time, so people are leaving, but I'm happy to answer more questions, because nobody is scheduled here right now.
Hi, I'm Pat McCurdy-Crescimano from the Donahue Group in Windsor, Connecticut. And I have a question specifically about Iowa State's use of Greenglass. I know Greenglass is a great product, and one of the drawbacks is it doesn't do serials. It only does monographs and monographic sets. So I wondered how you handle your weeding of serials. I know it's kind of been touched on by other people already, but.
I'm tangentially connected to that, but basically we have our collections coordinator work with it as well as our collection development group, and then we get data from Alma, from vendors. We do talk with faculty more about that, the liaisons do, but we also put lists up. But a lot of, we are only really within the last, since our new associate director for collections has come on, only in the last year have we really started looking at our print serials. Before they were untouchable because they were, so inexpensive, quote unquote. But we're really looking at everything. We're looking at usage, we're looking at how much people really need that area. We're talking with faculty, stuff like that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of, print serials specifically and space considerations and whether you are using some type of criteria to put them into off-site storage or, what you're.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think
are.
we're looking at cost, we're looking at what other, because that is hard. We have a periodical room where we don't have any circulation data. We have no data to go off of, really. It's really more talking to the faculty and or just looking at the price and figuring out, well, how often do we really have these things requested? Because we do document delivery through ILL, so we look at that. And I think some of it is just kind of a hunch. I mean, they just look at it and think, well, we've had this for a long time. We bind it. The bound volumes never move. We don't, I would love to have like a camera or something to see how much people actually use the unbound copies because they don't circulate. But yeah, it's sort of a guessing game to a point, and we just see how many people bark.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more questions, so we'll wrap up.